Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third iteration of the IFC podcast. My name is Braedan. I'm this year's IFC president. Today we have two special guests. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
I'm Dr. Dominic J. Novelli. I'm an instructional assistant professor of public policy leadership here at Ole Miss.
Hey everyone, my name is Barton Boyll. I'm also a public policy leadership major, so Dr. Novelli. He teaches me in 3 of my classes that I take on Tuesday and Thursday. So I'm actually tied for the record for the most classes in a semester too, which is awesome. But I'm also the executive vice president for the IFC.
Yeah, so we actually had the blessing and opportunity to eat lunch with Dr. Novelli one day at the Phi Delta Theta House. It was a fantastic time, so we figured why not get him on this podcast and ask him some questions. So super fortunate chance we have here today. The first question we kind of want to start off with is, tell us about your journey about how you got to Ole Miss and how you transitioned to school and teaching.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I mean, I graduated at Fordham University way back in 1986 with a finance degree, and but I always had a very, very strong interest in government and the political world. But I needed to. I'm a first gen college student. So my parents didn't have that opportunity, and I'm the oldest of 3. So I wanted to major in something that was practical. And the deeper I got into it, with no offense to finance majors, I realized that I really did not want to work with numbers all day long.
Certainly.
Because I'm more of a people person. And I think Barton can vouch for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My antics in classroom. So I never entered the public sector. My local assemblyman was looking for a legislative aide, and I jumped at the opportunity. And from there, the next 30 years, I actually served in government. I went from being a legislative aide to some state legislators to working in our county government, and starting as a press secretary, and then just working my way up to different positions, and ultimately to the highest appointed position within the government, which was quite a challenge, but such a learning experience.
That's awesome.
So it was really great. And then eventually I picked up my master's and my doctorate, and I was able to dip my toe in the water as far as teaching on the college and university levels, and just fell in love with it. And I knew that was going to be my second career. So when I retired from government, I went right into academia full time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's great. And
Super wholesome to hear. Yeah.
that's what I was just about to mention as well. So, after 30 years of being within the public sector of government, doing that chief of staff position and all those different administrational roles within government. So you really just decided to get your doctorate and all that kind of stuff there, and then move into Ole Miss. So what brought you to Ole Miss? Like, what did you like about Ole Miss that brought you from New Jersey all the way to Mississippi and Oxford?
yeah. I'm quite the novelty, because people will say, it's like, you're the one who lives in New Jersey, right? And you teach here? I'm like, yes, I'm the one who does that. And particularly in like airports and on airplanes, I'm sitting next to Ole Miss students, and they're like kind of fascinated by that whole thing. I saw, working in academia is extremely competitive. Landing, a job as an assistant professor, associate professor, it's extremely competitive. And I saw an ad that came across. The ad, though, was worded where PPL was actually looking for someone who had government experience, heavy government experience, had a doctorate, and also had teaching experience. So I literally checked the box on all 3 of those. And I said, you know what? I'll send it down there. What's the worst that can happen? And literally forgot about it for about 2 months, until I was contacted by Ole Miss, and they said, hey, your resume is pretty decent. We'd like to see if you're still interested in interviewing. I'm like, absolutely. So I interviewed once, interviewed second time, and then they called me, and I knew that I was going to get offered the position. So
That's awesome.
it was
Congratulations.
very,
Yeah.
very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely deserved it. And kind of relating to what you've been talking about on that topic, you are recognized as one of New Jersey's foremost experts on public procurement. So how has this expertise influenced your teaching and research in public policy leadership?
Well, my doctoral dissertation was on public procurement.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that whole research part of it was very exciting. I know some students are really not into rolling up their sleeves and doing the research, but I knew that was certainly a prerequisite to capturing my doctorate. So at that point in time, I was working as the qualified purchasing agent for my government, literally responsible for procuring, millions and millions of dollars worth of commodities and services. But my concern was that I was pondering whether or not the process in New Jersey was competitive enough,
Right.
because the laws from state to state with regards to procurement vary dramatically. It's not like there's a universal law that covers all 50 states, that's handed down by the feds. So I said, you know what? I wonder, how corporate leaders feel about doing business with public entities in New Jersey, as opposed to Pennsylvania, Mississippi, South Carolina. So I conducted my research on that, and my hypothesis was that the overregulation was creating impediments and disincentives for private sector firms for wanting to actually do business with the public sector in New Jersey. It was published. I defended it successfully. And
Congratulations.
thank
Hey,
you,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
That's awesome.
And no prouder moment than walking across the stage. I captured my doctorate at the University of Baltimore, and they actually have a theater down there called the Lyric as well.
Oh,
So coming full circle here, right?
Meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So I walked across the stage at the Lyric and was handed my diploma in front of my wife. My two daughters were very young at the time, but my mom was there with us too. So it was a very, very proud moment. A lot of work went into it. So
I bet. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I know you started to mention the challenges that you faced within your executive positions that you held within government. So, as you remember back to those days, do you remember what was a challenging experience that you faced, or a funny moment, or something that was most memorable for you throughout your time within public life?
I would say the biggest challenges, and that's why Barton can attest to this, the fact that we talk about the impact that politics has on so many different dimensions within the public sector. So right now I'm teaching technology, I'm teaching intro to public administration, and I'm teaching budgeting. And all three of them are influenced by the political dynamics to some extent. I remember specifically, Barton, to your question, being the administrator and knowing that we had a really, really tight budget, and that we were going to have to do an increase on the budget, and bump it up a little bit, because we had been really, really tight and holding the line. But at some point, it gets like a pressure cooker, where you have to release the valve a little bit.
Right. So it was hard, even for a government of that size, that county that you service of that size. It was still a very tight budget.
Absolutely. Because there's so many services and programs, and elected officials are they're reluctant to pull out the rug on some of these services because then they're worried they're going to have like a backlash of, maybe 200 people attending the next meeting saying, why did you eliminate a program? Or why are you cutting this program? But I had an elected official come up to me. We're crunching the numbers and we knew that we had to do an increase. And I had an elected official come up to me and say, listen, he goes, why can't we punt this increase to next year? And I'm like, because we really need to do it, practically and prudently. We need to do it this year, because we're suffering here. We need to, we need that extra revenue. And he said, like, but don't you know that I'm on the ballot this year? And that's typical.
Yeah.
And both parties play that game.
Absolutely.
Because I was approached by Republicans, I was approached by Democrats with the same thing. It's like, can we push this to a year where I'm not on the ballot? Because I don't want to run saying, well, yeah, he increased taxes and see the mailers coming out and the TV commercials. But that's the reality that you have to face. And you have to have very, very thick skin to have a position like the administrator. You really can't take things personal. And you really have to, and at times you really have to make some tough decisions that are going to really tick some people off.
Right. Yeah. Sure. So, you just mentioned a fantastic ethical point that happens in politics. We know that you sort of teach some classes around, public sector budgeting, technology that you mentioned, some more ethical and leadership-based classes. Do you have maybe a favorite one in particular that you like to teach, or something that really gets you excited for lectures every day?
I'll tell you, I always like teaching leadership courses because you could go so far back in history and look at historically you could look at people that have had that have ruled countries and whatever, and you could dissect the good, the bad, and the ugly with the way they did it. I mean, and we could also look at good leadership and solid leadership, and evil leadership. And that's why, and some of my students have done papers on that where they've done, contrasting viewpoints, looking at, those leaders that were really empathetic and really open to listening to the people and really serving because they truly wanted to serve. And there are other leaders that are serving because they crave the power. We just studied in public administration. We just looked at Machiavelli and the fact that, he said, I'd rather be hated and feared than to be loved by the people that I'm ruling.
It's a great
and the people that are working for me. And that is that's quite a statement to be made. That somebody would actually say that, but he believed it in his heart. It's like, what? This is going to be effective because they fear me. So they'll do whatever I tell them to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And that's one thing just generally about leadership that, Bart and I have seen is you won't be loved by everyone being in a higher position because you'll have to hurt some people and make some decisions that, that will be best for your council or for your people, but may affect others in a negative sense, at least in their eyes. So it's just tough stuff like that every leader who's had to lead a group of people has experienced. So it's a great point you mentioned about that. Yeah, you can't please everybody, and that's something that you just have to accept. Whether it's a fraternity leader on campus, a president, a social chairman, a rush chairman, all these things are different tasks where you see that you can't fulfill everyone's desires and make them happy, but you just truly have to do what is best in your heart and best for the people. So that's a great point you mentioned on leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And leadership can be really hard too. I've been fortunate to be in the leadership positions that I've been in. Some people say leadership can be lonely, but you also have to remember the fact that you're serving all these people. We serve 16 chapters here for the IFC, and the work that we do, we really put in to make sure that our chapters are able to grow and have success. And once you look out on all of it, that's the positive of leadership here. Is you look out on all of it, you get to see the incredible things that you can do through leadership and shape through your policies that you implement. And kind of leading into our next question here, Dr. Novelli. So, in terms of leadership, what do you think is one of the defining qualities of a leader that makes them very good, effective, and being able to garner the opinion of the public, and being a fearsome leader for them as we continue to charge forward? If you're trying to be in a certain area, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, the point that was made about the fact that if you go into a position, whether it's fraternity, whether it's in a corporate America, government, or just coaching a local team, like you're going to make decisions, like you said, that are not going to make some people happy. Right. Some people are going to be thrilled, but you're going to make some other people unhappy. So if you go into a leadership position thinking that it's all going to be like unicorns, rainbows, and butterflies, and everyone's going to be happy, and that's what you're trying to do, right, forget it, right? Because that's not going to happen. But what you really need to do is you an effective leader. Really, it's about being able to communicate with people, and having that access to people and wanting to interact with people. There are leaders that are very, very happy putting themselves, at the top of the castle, and keeping people away. But you really can't get a sense as a leader for like the needs of your people, their personalities. I mean, if you think that two people are the same, it's like with any faculty member, you have, we have, Barton knows that we have 27, 28 students, which is the maximum in a couple of our classes. And if you walk in as a faculty member thinking that, all students are the same, they learn the same or whatever, their personalities are the same, I mean, that's a failure from day one.
Yeah.
Because
you know your audience.
Yeah. I mean, you have to know your audience. You have to know that there are going to be people there that perhaps are never going to raise their hand to offer an opinion on what you're talking about.
Right.
And you'll have others that are constantly doing that.
Like technology class. Shout out Cross. Cross is always talking in technology.
Former IFC exec.
Shout out to Cross. But you know what? Cross knows that I think he knows, like, all right, I want to share this. But when he sees that no one else is answering, and he really has the zeal to want to share his thoughts on it, and his insights are always thought provoking. So, but you have to recognize that, and it's the same thing when you're like training somebody on a particular job. Again, like you could relate that back to a classroom where you have some students that would prefer to write a paper as opposed to sit for an exam, and have that stress about studying for an exam and putting pen to paper and putting the right answers down. There are others that would say, give me all the papers. I'll write the papers, just don't give me an exam. So what I try to do is, obviously, we try to slice and dice it a little bit, where we have writing assignments and we have at least one exam. A couple of classes, maybe you have two exams, so they're going to have the best of both worlds.
Right.
Might not be happy with taking an exam, but they realize that, they have a final project paper that's worth 40% of their grade.
Yeah.
So if that's their strong suit, then that's wonderful. That's coming down, the way. Because I don't give final exams. So, I mean, they do, because I strongly believe, again, the communication part of it, and what, my friends in the private sector are telling me, it's like, have your students present.
Yeah.
Have them communicate.
Absolutely.
Hone their skills on paper and orally, verbally, standing in front of a group, because they may be hired by a corporation, and the boss is going to say, "Hey, Barton, can you just share, with your team, your 7-member team, share with them the status on your project. And Barton can say, oh, you know what, I really don't speak in front of crowds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that really is, and I recognize that public speaking is a genuine fear. It's one of the greatest fears out there.
I used to be the biggest fear, like my biggest fear used to be public speaking. And, getting into this leadership position when I first started IFC back last year more seriously within my executive board position, like I could barely even speak to a crowd of 50. And now, I look back on like recruitment when I spoke to like 1,500 people, I've really grown in that space. And that's why I think leadership is so important, especially with like in our Ole Miss community, because you're able to grow those orator skills. You're also able to grow your skills in logistics and other things like that. So that's why I think all that's very important. And it's important that we all get developed into leadership positions on campus as well.
Absolutely. And I think, and like the skills that you guys are honing here is gonna pay off 100-fold
Absolutely.
when you graduate from Ole Miss, because of responsibilities that you have, because you're recognizing that, again, like that whole thing, it's like you can't make everyone happy. You're gonna have to make tough decisions, but as long as you have all the facts and you believe that you're making a decision that's for the greater good of the most amount of people. Well, I mean, that skill alone is, I mean, that is critical.
Absolutely.
To be able to learn that and to be able to do that here at Ole Miss before you go out into the real world, the corporate world, whether you're going to law school or a corporate, or government work or whatever sphere you enter, you're gonna need those skills.
Yeah.
And if you're honing them here, you've got legs up on other people that are coming out and maybe you just weren't involved and didn't have that experience, and they're going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Novelli, Barton, those are fantastic points you mentioned. I mean, with recruitment that we had to deal with and every other time where we had to get a group of people together, the logistical reasoning that you have to do to have these processes smooth and to run it as effectively as possible, and the critical thinking that you have to do whenever you have to consider all the moving pieces in a project, all that goes into play when you're involved with registered student organizations on campus. So I could not emphasize the importance enough of being involved on campus. You learn so many things about working as a team, public speaking, communication in general, and learning how to really delve into all these logistical pieces. So getting that in your undergraduate experience, I know in high school maybe a little bit harder to be involved at that level, but just such a good point, Barton. Even the hard talks that you mentioned that you have to have with people, you'd rather have that, I guess, beforehand with the council or with a group of people who mess up and you have to sanction, than learning those skills is better early on than later in life. So those are great points you mentioned. Yeah.
And we also have hundreds of student organizations here on campus that you can join in and be a part of and learn those leadership skills and propel your organization forward to be able to be successful and have a strong position on campus as well too. And that kind of growth is huge to understand and be able to bring into the real life after college, right? So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And kind of want to transition more to some more to some Greek life oriented questions.
Yeah,
So I know we obviously had our fun luncheon at Fidel and we got to just have some fun and talk about Greek life. We know your daughter's interested in Greek life, so if you could tell us some more about some other family members you have in Greek life, or just about your daughter's whole experience at Georgia Tech and what that's like, that'd be awesome.
She's had a wonderful experience. I'm proud of both of my daughters. My oldest one went to the University of San Diego, and she graduated with a psychology degree. They had sororities, but it wasn't like the traditional Greek life that you'd see at like Ole Miss and other universities. But it's a step up from what I had. I mean, I went to Fordham University, and we had no fraternities, no sororities. So, and my daughter at San Diego at least had the ability to join a sorority, and it was like I said, they didn't have sorority houses, but they were able to get together for the important charitable endeavors. My younger daughter, who's a month away from graduate, thankfully, a month away from graduating from Georgia Tech, and I'm very proud of her because she's been offered a position already that she's accepted. She's a Jersey girl, but she's staying down south.
Oh,
Hey, that's
right.
awesome.
She's going to be living in Birmingham, Alabama.
Fantastic
Awesome
place.
place.
So she's very excited about it. And she asked me, she's computer science, so she wants to do cybersecurity and like. So we're very proud of her. But she's been FIMU since freshman year, so I've had some good experiences visiting her, on the parents' sorority day,
Parent weekends, right?
Yeah.
and have gotten to know her sorority sisters quite well. Where some of them have never visited New York and New Jersey, so we've had a houseload of sisters staying with us.
That's what it's all about.
And my daughter, doing the tour guide stuff. But it really, they truly are like sisters,
That's awesome.
like blood sisters. There's, you could just see, the love and respect that they have for each other, the support, they have each other's backs. They've done some really fun things on the side where, they just got back from Europe for a spring break trip. Like I always say as a joke that one day I want to come back as my daughters.
You're always talking about them in class. You love them.
They do. And truth be told, my first semester here, I talked about my daughters so much that I included them on one of the exams as extra credit questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You always have the best extra bonus questions.
Absolutely.
They're so funny.
Yeah, just the camaraderie as a whole that Greek life presents is so fantastic and meaningful. I can personally attest. I've met many people who are Christians like me in my organization, or many people who are study biology like me, who I can study with, many people who have similar hobbies with me, whether that's hunting or fishing or doing whatever. Barton and I have some hunting excursions planned in the future, so
Yes.
it's just stuff like that. The people you meet in the Greek community who you're alike and even different from, the different perspectives and opinions you learn about and hear about, who bring in so many different cool ideas and perspectives. So the diversification we have here is it's really amazing, and I couldn't be more thankful for my fraternity brothers, and I'm sure Barton and the rest of our executive could say that as well. So
Yeah, and for me personally, Greek life has been huge. As I've gotten more exposure to all of our different spheres of Greek life, I've met so many different people. Like for me right now, I'm in a group chat with Simakaz, K, Sima News, a bunch of different guys. We all love sports. We all go to the front row right behind DJ KO at the football game, and it's a fan club. So shout out the fan club. Greek life plays a really huge role here, and I'm sure for you too, Dr. Novelli. So how does Greek life play a role for you as a professor? How do you see that here?
Well, you know what? I think it really plays into the one thing overall that has blown me away about all this is the fact that I have never. I've taught at 6 schools, but they were smaller. I can't really compare them pound for pound with Ole Miss because Ole Miss is a much larger flagship state university. But the school spirit on this campus,
it's amazing.
It's incredible.
Our fans
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's just and it's contagious. It's contagious, and it's just so. I just feel very special being a part of the community, and the fact that here's this 61-year-old guy from New Jersey coming down here, and being able to really connect with my students. And I've been able to connect with them, and they've been able to share things with me that some difficulties that they're going through, which they knew that, I mean, obviously I would never reveal any of that stuff. I mean, it's stuff that's shared in confidence, and but they need to, vent that a little bit.
Mhm.
So I mean, so the connections that you make, and to bring it out to a more global issue, in terms of like the networking that you folks are doing in Greek life.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's invaluable
Yeah.
when you get out into the real world. I mean, that's not to say I'm downplaying the importance of being educated and, and really, learning as much as you can about different things. But let's face it, I mean, in the real world, it's that networking that might get you that foot into that first door. And then after that, it really does fall back on the individual.
Yeah.
About, all right, like, prove yourself now.
Right.
All right, it's like, we've networked, and I know, and I trust you, and I know that you're a good person and whatever, and you'd be a great asset to this company. I mean, that person's putting their good name on the line.
Yeah. Right.
Now it's really, now the handoff is really made to that individual, so they can actually, blossom and really grow with, that particular job, with that particular career, with the skill sets. I mean, I always tell students, I mean, if your boss challenges you to learn a different skill set, don't say, you know what, that's really, I don't do that. It's like, that's so foolish.
Yeah. Your boss doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah. Your boss is not going to want to hear that, and not for anything. I mean, when you move forward and some other boss along the way in your career is going to say, hey, have you ever done, it's like, yeah, I did that in my first company. I know how to do that.
Trying out new things.
Exactly. So you're trying out new things, and you're making yourself more invaluable, more competitive in the process.
Right.
But networking is an important part of it, and I think that's really one of the amazing things that I've seen through the Greek system, is the fact that that networking takes place, and you can actually connect with others, and others that are on other campuses.
Absolutely.
That you have you have something in common.
Yeah.
And it's that leg into a conversation. It's like, oh wow, we were in the same fraternity, just at different schools, and and just and that creates those those opportunities that you might not see next week, but it could be 2 years from now when you get a phone call, or maybe you place a phone call to that person saying, you told me that you're working, are you still there? Are you looking? It's like, yeah, actually we are. We're doing an open search.
Yeah.
And that is so critically important. So I think some people get caught up on, it's like, well, it's GPA only, and you go out and that's it, and whatever. And you can send out 120 resumes and not get any bites. But if you have the talent, the brains, the personality, and access to a network base, I mean, you're going to find that is going to that's going to bear fruit in the future.
Absolutely.
Without question.
Yeah, and connections is a fantastic thing that is provided by our community here. I mean, Barton and I are fortunate enough to every year we get to go to AFLB, some event in Indianapolis, where we get to connect with Greek members all throughout the nation. We get to sit in tables with fellow members of Phi Delta or KA, and those guys are our best friends now. We stay in communication. We get to meet with other IFC consuls. So just Greek life as a whole, being this union, I guess, that connects a bunch of people, is fantastic. And I guess kind of moving on to another part of the connection piece is we have students all the time taking professors to the K house and Phi Delta house just to eat a meal with them and to converse with them and to have some smaller chit chat, more personal conversations than they could have in the classroom. And I guess that kind of brings us to how I first met you. So we just want to talk about how your experience was being a professor going to a Greek house on campus, kind of how much you enjoyed that. We can talk about the food that they catered, the South Depot that day. It was a great time.
Tuesday.
We were
Yeah,
supposed to
Taco
go to
Tuesday.
K today for steak sandwiches. I missed that.
Thank you, American Airlines.
I know.
Thank you, American
They've given me a rough
Airlines.
time as well, so I feel you on that.
Yeah. And that was very exciting for me. I mean, like I said, I didn't have that experience, as an undergraduate, and I really did sincerely appreciate the invite and the ability again to walk into a house and to share a meal with you folks, um, and the good thing is, again, it's about the importance of, and maybe some faculty members disagree with me, but that's not going to stop me from holding my opinion. That there is such an importance about connecting with your students.
It's awesome.
Connecting with your students, and it doesn't always have to be about, Barton, what about the budgeting question I asked you, or whatever. It's about like, hey, you're going, where you guys going on spring break? Barton knows, like, I like to ask like fun fact questions with my attendance sheets, and it's just to learn more about my students, like their favorite music. If they could choose one person in the world, in world history, to have lunch with or hang out with, who would that be? And why? And like if you get any car or whatever, little things like that.
One of the free
so much.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but one of the free forum questions that you did one day, I responded with Austin Simmons for Heisman.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll just like, all right, it's like a free board. So like sign your name and put whatever, and then you'll see like different comments, and and you could sense like what if somebody's having a bad week. It's like like three exams in 1 week should be illegal. Like stuff like that. But it's a way for like students to express themselves, and like I get such a chuckle out of like reading them afterwards, and like I'll share I'll share some of them with the class, that I know like are that are acceptable and whatever that I can share, but it's that whole connection, and it's getting to know students beyond the classroom, which is so important, to get to know how they tick, and what their interests are and whatever. You learn so much about people that way, and I just believe it's very, very important, and it helps me as an instructor when I'm standing in front of the class, because I just have like a greater knowledge base about individual students. I know where they're from. I know what's going on, and in their world or whatever. And it just makes it a little bit easier. It brings it down to a different level, and you're able to connect a little bit better on like on the topics that you're teaching. You feel, and I think students feel too, that comfort level. I'd like to think they feel a comfort level with me, where they could say, hey, listen, I'm really struggling with this thing. Where maybe with somebody else, maybe they would say, I'm afraid to ask them, or I'm embarrassed to tell them I don't get it. But so I like to think like it's a two-way street. Like, not only am I connecting with the students, but they're obviously connecting with me, and there's that comfort level where they can tell me, it's like, hey, like, can I come for extra help? I'm really struggling a little bit on this concept, and that happens, and it's like, absolutely, let's find a time that works for both of us.
And I will say this too, like, within my experience as a public policy leadership major, like all of our professors within our department are very helpful, and they definitely do engage in that student professor relationship, and that makes for an even more intimate experience as a student as well too. So it's very special as we foster those relationships. So Dr. Novelli, kind of moving on to a different questioning line here. So what do you think is important for our members within our community and other communities on campus? Why is leadership so important for them as they continue to go forward as students and then also graduate as well?
Well, you know something? Because I think, well, first of all, there are very few people in this whole world, because we talk about leadership and we talk about followership, right?
Yeah.
So we've studied that. And there are few, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's a leader who was never a follower.
Yeah.
And you'd be hard pressed to find someone who is, currently a leader and also serves in a follower role. And I give an example of like an executive director of a nonprofit organization. Well, yeah, they're the very top of the poll. They're at the very top, and and they're the leader of that particular organization. But ultimately, they also are followers because they were hired by the board of trustees.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, the board of trustees have they have the final call as to whether or not they want to keep this ED, or whether or not they, whether they think they should go in a different direction. So your leader and your follower. But something, coming out of here, you're going to find yourself, even if you're not coming out of here breaking the doors down and saying, I'm going to be a leader, like within the next 2 weeks or whatever, you're going to find yourself at some point in time in a leadership role.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
even if it's something as benign as leading your kids' Boy Scout or Girl Scout troops, or coaching, or some civic organization where they're doing some really good things within your community, and they say, hey, do you want to be the president of the club? So you're coming into a leadership role. So maybe it's not like career based, but it's certainly that's civic based, community based. People, I mean, again, you're working with people and those people skills. So the more that you hone those people skills when you're younger, you're more prepared when you come out to be able to deal with that. And so that's why it's really important, because if you come out and say, you know what, I'm never going to have a leadership role, well, first thing, you're selling yourself short automatically. And second of all, you're probably wrong, because at some point in time, you're going to find yourself and you're going to sit there and say, yeah, I guess I'm the leader of this group.
Yeah.
I didn't really start out to want to be the leader, but I am the leader of that group.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Just kind of based off that, to reflect on kind of where Bart and I have gone, or where we come from freshman year, where we are now. So, I mean, obviously we both started off as potential new members, going through recruitment in 2022. Worked our way up in the IFC through judicial board and being a row alpha. Served on executive board last year. Now we find ourselves kind of serving as the vice president. So everyone starts somewhere. I hope to go to medical school in the future, and I know that I'll be just a regular peer amongst all my other students, and then we'll have to differentiate ourselves based on how much work we put into that moment. So it's such a good point to say that everyone starts at a lower position, I guess you could say, but you have the chance always to work your tail off and work the best you can to reach a higher position and serve as a leader if you really have that in your heart and feel called to lead in that way. So I know I join new organizations that I'm a member of and a follower of, and I'm looking up to these people above me like, wow, like I really want to be in their position one day. I respect them so much for how much they are passionate about this organization, and that's something that truly drew me into the IFC, is seeing the former leaders of the past, whether that's Ashton Heath, Andrew Meyer, Cole Barnhill, Beckett, just seeing all these people serve in the past and how much they care and their passion, being under them and being a follower is something that you can learn leadership traits from, and it can inspire you to be where we got today, kind of. So
Yeah. Also, too, Dr. Novelli, you mentioned like civic engagements in terms of leadership. One thing for me personally that I can think to is like my dad is a part of Young Business Leaders in Jackson. Like he's been a part of that for a while. He helps out with that a lot, and that's definitely something that's applicable for things that you can do within your community. As you grow as sort of an older person within the professional world, but also like in the professional world too, as Braedan said, like you can be a part of a business and start down as, the guy who's going to get the coffee and doing all the paperwork and stuff.
Mhm.
But as you learn those skills that those people teach you up within the top ranks, you'll learn all that experience. You might get promoted, and then one day you're going to be the person that's managing the guy that you used to be. So that's why leadership is so important. Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
And the importance of mentorship. I mean, mentorship and leadership
cannot be
are like
overstated,
this.
Absolutely.
I mean, to be a genuine leader, and I always use that term, genuine leader, because some people say, "Yeah, I'm the leader." It's like, really? Are you a genuine leader? Because a genuine leader is actually looking to, looking to groom those individuals that they see like great potential.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like 20 years from now, this person is going to be running this place.
Yeah.
And
awesome,
it's like being able to identify that and not having the fear of, oh my goodness, they're going to take my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what separates, genuine leaders from like manager types or whatever. It's like, they get like this, they get very territorial. It's like, wow, like this bright young kid is here. It's fresh out of school. He's bright. He's got a lot of energy and ambition or whatever. But I know he's after my job or whatever. Some people are very, very paranoid that way. But a genuine leader is the one that would look at that and say, wow, this is very exciting.
Yeah.
We have several new people here that that have all the promise in the world. The sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
And like you have a calling. Like I was mentored by certain leaders, when I was younger, that helped me work my way out from being a press secretary, different positions, and work my way all the way to the top. They took me under their wing. They gave me advice. You have that responsibility to pay that forward.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
It's like, something, somebody did it for you. So you know what? I mean, you're not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
So identify those people and work with them. Take them under your wing. Show them, talk to them, sit down with them, give them advice. Tell them. It's like, hey, you know what? You offered that presentation the other day, but I could tell you were really jittery. Let's practice that a little bit. I'll sit for you and just have you, off the cuff give remarks about a certain topic, and just like to hone those particular skills.
Yeah.
And that's important.
I could talk forever about the importance of investing in the future and mentorship. I could personally say there's no way I would be here right now without people who have taken time to invest in my life, whether that's, my older brother who gives me advice and helps me out with similar things he went with in school, my mother who's involved in many similar passions and interests as me, even my high school football coaches and different teachers and professors who've taken the time out to invest in me because they know that we share similar interests and passions and just to show that they care for others. So something that I felt is a huge calling in my life is to reach out to high schoolers or younger college students who have a similar path to me, and help them out. I mean, when we go to all of our chapter visits, I let the guys know, hey, if there's any way I can help you out, whether it's with what you study, if you just want to talk about religion or just get to know one another, like, guys, I'm here to help you. Barton and I have experienced a lot, same with Dr. Novelli. Like, we're here for you guys, and we want you guys to genuinely reach out to us and get to know us more, because giving back is almost like, sorry for saying life's, it's a serious calling that you feel, and it's really fulfilling whenever you can pour back into someone because someone did that to get you in that position. So it's like a full circle moment, and it's almost it just feels really good to be able to do that.
Yeah, for me personally, like I have people that I know within my life that have driven me and guided me. I'll definitely say my parents are some of those people who are my biggest mentors. I call them every day, talk to them and get their advice, but also people within the professional world of what I want to do later on in life. I've got, whomever who's been my mentor throughout them, and I'm so grateful for what they have done for me, the advice they have given me, all the things that they have done. I can tell you one thing, like mentorship is huge, and especially within, the public policy leadership area of life. But one thing that I try to do within my own chapter, but also, as Braedan said, like we want to help build and develop the future leaders of our community, but also the communities within Oxford and the LOU community, right? Too.
Yeah.
But I always ask my guys who are in my chapter of Phi Delta, I'm like, hey, like, let's get plugged into these things. Let me help you and guide you from my experience that I've gained personally, and show you, what are the right things to do here.
Yeah.
So leadership and mentorship are huge, and I feel like, the more leaders that we have is the better we will be going forward. So I think that's huge.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Great points, Lauren. And just talking about leadership and mentorship and advice as a whole, Dr. Novelli, we just want to know what's kind of the best advice that you could give to our IFC community, or just the students here as a whole and college students of the nation, if you want to go broader. What's sort of the best advice you can give, whether that is life skills or whatever you think?
Come out of your comfort zone, okay? There are, again, like we talked about, like no two students are the same. Some folks are maybe a little bit more shy, introverted. But in order to really, to blossom, and I know I'm beating that word into the ground, but really, you really need to come out of your zone and like experience, what's out there. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
and here on this campus,
Yeah.
there are so many different organizations.
So much opportunity.
So much opportunity
Yeah.
when you,
Hundreds.
between Greek life and the clubs and organizations. I mean, if you can't find your particular calling here, then what are you looking for? I mean, it's
Right.
it's here. I mean, so you